Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your time and efforts. Welcome to Managing Your Business to Recovery During a Crisis, an opportunity for SMEs, business owners, and managers and entrepreneurs to participate in a webinar this afternoon, as we're going to be talking with some very esteemed experts in various areas of business management who will be giving you some tips on how to manage your business and to ensure that you survive this crisis. But first of all, I'd like to introduce the Deputy Managing Director of the bank, Mrs. Fatimata Gaku. She's going to give us some opening remarks and then we'll begin.
Bank of Africa's story started as a pioneer project to create an African bank that is independent of major international group. The story can be captured in decades for the past 38 years. The first decade was the launch of the first bank in Mali in 1982, then followed the creation of a financial holding structure to support all of the system later on. Then in 1989, Bank of Africa Benin was created. Benin is the leader on his market now. The second decade was the expansion of Bank of Africa. And that decade, the concept based on the balance, a diversified shareholder structure, and the same strategy for all West African Economic and Monetary Union were adopted and are consolidated. In 1994, Bank of Africa was created in Niger, then Cote d'Ivoire in 1996, then Burkina Faso. Again, Burkina Faso is a leader bank in, BOA Burkina is a leader bank in Burkina Faso. The third decade, that was the diversification of Bank of Africa from 1999 to 2010. The corporate structure was just created to support the supervisory role and organizational role of all diversified Bank of Africa. During that period, Madagascar was created in 1999, then Senegal, Kenya in 2004, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, DRC, Djibouti. In that period, a finance company dedicated to African diaspora was created in France as well. From 2010, we can say that was the creation of an institution. The alliance between BOA and BMC was born in 2008, and that alliance was consolidated in 2010. As of now, BMC Group in Morocco, the third big group in Morocco, changed his name to Bank of Africa. That's Bank of Africa Group now. The group adhered to the strategy that has served well for more than 38 years, as I said, the value and point of reference that have been constantly driven by the professionalism, rigor, and the proximity to the customer and involvement in national development. In Ghana, the story started by integrated Amal Bank, which was created in 1999 to BOA Group in 2011. Currently, we have 26 branches across 6 regions in Ghana, 25 branches, and a centralized corporate banking office in Accra. We focus on providing customer service that afford the client with convenience while meeting their banking needs. To further curve that niche as a model trade and SME support bank, Bank of Africa combines its global presence, conveniency, affordability, and relationship management to serve you better. Our global presence makes us your trustworthy partner for SME business and also for international trade business along the Francophone West African corridor, Moroccan corridor, Chinese and European corridor, as well as American corridor. At Bank of Africa, for sure, we promise the competitive pricing, competitive exchange rate, a tailor-made solution for your SME businesses, an excellent service delivery, cutting-edge, convenient banking platform. a strong regional and global network that connects your trades to the rest of the world, as well as we give you advisory services for your SME. We are open anytime to accompany our clients. Thank you, Letitia.
Thank you very much, Fatimata, for that fantastic introduction. It wasn't just a formality. I hope everybody on the line was listening intently. I think it's a fantastic story of an African-owned business that has grown steadily over the years, and something for us to all aspire towards as entrepreneurs, business owners, and managers. But first, let's try and get ourselves through this crisis that we are currently facing, and we're going to jump into the order of the day now. So my name is Letitia Brown. I'm going to be your host for this afternoon's webinar. I'm joined by a very esteemed panel of experts in their various fields. We have Taka Awori.
Hi, Letitia. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. So Taka is going to be speaking to us about leadership and organizational development and how to adapt as a leader throughout this challenging period. Then we also have Dr. Amanobia Boateng.
Hi.
Can you hear us over there?
I can hear you.
Awesome. And we have Akofa Dakwa.
Hello.
Thank you very much. So as you can see from the brief descriptions that we've had on the screen, we have decades of experience here that we're going to be sharing with you this afternoon. So I think we'll jump straight in to a presentation by Taka Awori, who's going to be speaking to us about leadership and the importance of being versatile during this period. So Taka, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Letitia. And I'd like to begin by thanking Bank of Africa for convening many business leaders and heads to come together to really start to think through how do we strengthen our businesses to recover after this crisis and during this crisis. So I'm sharing with you today about the leadership imperatives for business resilience and recovery. And let me start off by recognizing that COVID has been really tough on many of our businesses. So not surprisingly, many leaders are anxious, they're worried, they're concerned, and they're really asking themselves whether their businesses will recover. And yet, as I work with leaders across this continent and in Ghana, I also notice that while, yes, some businesses may not recover, there are some businesses that are actually thriving across this continent, and they're thriving despite the crisis. And what is common to what these businesses, what is one of the key determinants? It's their leadership. So COVID, I think, has taught all of us that leadership matters. Whether it's leadership of your country, whether it's leadership of your family, leadership matters. And yet, as it can't be business as usual, it cannot be leadership as usual. So what we're finding is that there are certain leadership competencies or leadership practices that as a leader, if you continue to practice, will get in the way of business recovery. And I'm happy to talk about those later. There's some eternal leadership principles and practices that need to continue. Again, happy to talk about them later. But what I really want to focus on today is what I am seeing in the leadership of the businesses that are thriving and recovering. And there's 7 competencies I'm seeing within these businesses. So let me start with the first. These are leaders, we can move to the next slide. These are leaders who, they're what I call disruptors. Disruptors are people who are thinking outside the box. And you know, in the old days, disruption, to be someone who's disruptive was a bad word. But these are people who understand and comprehend that actually disruption, being disruptive, is actually what will give you the edge today. So these are people who are willing to think outside the box. These are game changers. These are people and leaders who are willing to disrupt themselves before they're disrupted. So these are people who are comfortable with being uncomfortable, because the space of disruption is uncomfortable. But these are also people who are able to see opportunity in crises. They're not opportunistic in the sense that they're not taking advantage of people, but rather than staying in a space of threats, they're actually able to see the crisis and say, where are the opportunities to grow my business? So that's first, they're disruptors. The second thing is that these are people, we can go on, these are people who are networked. Now, what do I mean by this? These are people who have healthy and productive relationships outside of their sector. So for instance, if in their pharmaceutical sector, they also have networks in other sectors. If they're in banking, they have productive relationships in those other sectors. But also, they have relationships outside their geographic space. So if they're working in Ghana, they ensure that they have productive relationships outside of Ghana, within West Africa. If they're in Africa, they're developing relationships outside of the continent because they recognize that business recovery will require productive relationships beyond your narrow zone. But these are also people who have both what I call strategic and operational networks. So strategic networks are relationships with people who you can bounce ideas off. When they talk about what they're doing, they're like, that gives me a good idea. Yet at the same time, you need to have a different set of networks, those who can actually help you execute. So for instance, if you're shifting your business online, where are your networks in terms of people who enable you the technical support, the graphic design, the marketing? So that's the second element. These are leaders who are networked. The third are leaders who are what I call collaborative, and collaborative at two levels. They're collaborative internally, so they create a culture of collaboration within their businesses, because we recognize that businesses in which people are not talking to each other, in which voices are not being heard, are not businesses that can recover. So you need to create that culture of collaboration, because you have no idea where that next best innovation will come from. So it's collaboration internally, but it's also business leaders who are able to collaborate externally by establishing strategic partnerships to seize emerging business opportunities. And this is a thing that we've often struggled with in business, particularly on this continent, developing partnerships, issues of trust. We think a partnership is a full-time marriage when we're not recognizing that maybe it's coming together for a moment in time to achieve a specific objective. So strategic partnerships. The next thing we find is people, in addition, who are collaborative, it's leaders who are agile. And what do I mean by this? It's leaders who have a growth rather than a fixed mindset. These are leaders who are open-minded and flexible in their thinking. One of the things I have noticed in working with leaders over the last 10, 15 years is that I will come across leaders who will come to a certain age and just decide they have nothing more to learn. They've capped. But that's the type of leadership that will also cap the business's ability to recover. So that ability, that growth mindset, where you're constantly willing to learn, enables your business to learn. The agility is also about the ability to match your leadership style to the person or situation. Many leaders in this webinar right now might be leading people who are remote workers. This is not the time where you can be micromanaging. How do you micromanage someone in their home? So it might require a different leadership style, a lot more coaching. And finally, these are leaders that are comfortable with ambiguity and certainty, because these are the times we're living in. One of the biggest dangers of a leader now is somebody who's absolutely certain, because what can you be certain about? Rather than certainty, we're looking for clarity. So agility. The next key competency I'm seeing in leaders who are able to enable their businesses to recover is that they are inclusive. So these are people who are able to embrace diversity. I see we've gone to, can lead horizontally, that's fine. Huh? Let me talk about the inclusiveness and we'll go to lead horizontally. The inclusiveness is about people who can embrace diversity in all its different forms, both in terms of gender, age, because increasingly in a competitive global environment, again, you don't know where the best idea will come from. So let's go back to able to lead horizontally. Yeah? These are people who are able to build trust across boundaries. Again, to recover in this context, it's about those relationships. So leaders who are used to influencing others, primarily based on their authority and their title, will struggle because, as I mentioned before, what enables a business to recover many times are strategic relationships. That's about building trust across boundary. These are people who inspire confidence, consistently interested in the welfare of others, and can make a compelling case for a shared agenda. So moving on to the next one. Finally, these are leaders who I will call tuned in. And actually, I would say this one, this is the last one, but this one I would say is almost the foundation of being able to do the others. And what do I mean by tuned in? These are leaders who are reflective, deeply self-aware, confident in themselves, even in moments of uncertainty. They're bold and decisive when they need to be. Masters of their emotions, because this is a time when we're all sitting with anxiety, we're all sitting with worry, but the emotions of a leader therefore have an impact on the emotions of others. So able to master their emotions, and in that respect are comfortable with showing vulnerability when appropriate. So these are the 7 competencies that you see of leaders who are able to drive their business to recovery. Thank you, Letitia. I'll stop for now.
Okay, thank you so much. That was extremely insightful. Keywords, resilience and agility is what I really took away from that. I'm sure we'll get about that as we go on. Those who may have just joined us, as our numbers are rapidly creeping up, we're having a discussion on how to survive and how to manage your business during a crisis. The next panel member that's going to take over now is Dr. Amanabia Boateng. Amanabia, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you, Letitia.
So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was a very interesting presentation, Taka. So I'm going to talk about business lessons from COVID-19 and how we can adopt a forward-thinking mindset. So I'm going to look at, first of all, how did we get here? How did we get here? What are the lessons that we can learn from those who have survived and those who are thriving? How can we use those lessons to survive now? And then how can we move forward into the future in strength, in resilience, and make sure that beyond COVID, we continue to exist and continue to be relevant. I also want to talk about how we must bring the people with us and give them calm and certainty in these times, and looking at the silver lining. So to start off, I want to ask the question, how did we get here? In January 2020, it was a new year, New Year's resolutions, new plans. Life was great. The year promised many things to all of us and to our businesses, and we're poised to take advantage of the different opportunities that lay ahead. 3 months down the line, in March, COVID had happened and we were in lockdown, not only in Ghana, but in many countries, most countries across the globe. We were in lockdown, something we had never experienced before. Life was not normal anymore. We did not know what normal was. We could only go out for essentials. We were basically locked within our homes and confronting images on the screens of death and doom. A terrible time for many of us, you know. And for a lot of us, what we did was find ways to cope, whether it was Netflix, ice cream, you name it. But from time to time, we would come out and think, what if things go back to normal? What are we going to do? So we started the year energized, we moved into lethargy, and then all of a sudden lockdown was over. Desperation, what are we going to do to stay relevant? So that's how we've progressed to where we are now. Now, what lessons can we learn from those who have survived? I don't know whether somebody is going to advance my slides, thank you. So can I go 2 slides down, please? Next one, please. Right. So what are the key lessons that we can take from those who have survived? As Taka was saying, these are people who had flexibility built into their models. These were people who could pick up quickly and change direction. There were people who were diversified, had different streams of income, and there were people who could quickly change their operations to take advantage of the opportunities offered by the pandemic. You know, keeping us safe, keeping us safely distanced, all of that. And there were people who had the cash, who had the financial resources to be able to adapt, meet these different opportunities that they had. So those are lessons that we can take to use in our businesses to survive now, because we need to survive now before we can go forward. Can I have the next slide down, please? Right, so how do we sustain our businesses now? We basically need to look at ways of creating new income streams. What do we have that we can add to what we're doing now? Maybe we have some interest, we have some other resources that we haven't put to very much use. We can put those to use now. We can look at different ways of offering our services. If we are businesses that had people coming in to obtain our services face to face, we can now look at offering our services online. We can look at using social media, your Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. These are different ways in which we can let our customers know that we still exist and we still have goods and services that are good for them. We can also bring convenience to them by delivering. The other thing is trimming our overheads. Cash is important at this time. I read somewhere that we need to be able to sustain ourselves for about 18 months going forward. Whatever it is, cash is important. So let's trim our overheads and let's make simple changes. It doesn't always have to be something huge, but we can tweak and make little changes that can make a significant difference to whether we survive or not. Now that we know how, we've talked about how we can survive, we can move forward to see how we can go forward into the future. So I'm going to talk about future-proofing our business. And that requires 3 things. We must adapt. We must be able to adapt, and we must do some scenario planning and also identify opportunities. These are all things that Taka mentioned in her presentation. So adapting means perhaps you were great in the past, you know? You need to move past that past glory. You need to think about all the things that your business can do differently to improve it and make it resilient. And then we need to scenario plan. Think about your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats that confront your business. Ask all the different questions, challenge everything. Ask all the what ifs. What if this were to happen to my business? Post-COVID, what could the situation be? Think of all these different questions and then try and find answers to them. And in finding answers to them, you're identifying different opportunities for your business. So divide those different solutions into what you can do now in the short term, what you can do in the medium term, and what you can do going forward into the long term. That way you have a long timeline of how your business can remain relevant well past COVID. And that's what we are looking for. So after that, we're going to look at how to keep our people on board. So we need to keep our people by providing certainty in these uncertain times. And I'm saying that our people are our customers, they are our employees, as well as the different stakeholders that we have as businesses. The times are bad for everybody. Yes, our businesses may be in dire straits, but our customers have problems of their own. Our employees are facing different problems. You know, life is uncertain for everybody. So let's engage with these different people in our lives, our employees, our customers, our stakeholders. Let's talk to our customers. Let's find out from them how we can help to make life better for them. What could we do differently that could help them? That will give us good ideas that can feed back into our scenario planning and looking for opportunities into the future. Let's talk to our employees. Let's be open with them about the situation that we're in, the difficulties that we're confronting, and let's make them part of the solution, you know, because they are the people at the rock face of our businesses. They are the people who work on a day-to-day, and they know the business. So let's involve them in finding solutions rather than just making them bystanders. If we have their buy-in, they'll be, you know, they will be with us. They will stick with us, you know, long into the future. So this is important. Let's keep our people on board. And then lastly, I want us to look at the silver lining. Can we move along? Thank you. So it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, COVID is terrible. COVID has caused untold death and misery and sadness all across the globe. But it's also brought some opportunities our way that we may not immediately see. You know, there are opportunities. We have extra time that we can use to invest in ourselves and in our businesses. For many of us, you know, it's always a thing we do. We say, I'll be healthy further down the line. I will adopt habits. Well, you've got the time now. Let's invest in ourselves, because as business owners, if we are not doing well, we can't look after our businesses properly. So let's invest in ourselves. Let's invest in our businesses. Let's take the time now to do a whole rethink of our businesses and see how we can move them strongly into the future. Technology is a push that is happening now. Technology is a push that is happening now. Let's take advantage of it. Let's bring technology on board instead of delaying it. Technology will enable us to scale our businesses sooner than we might have been able. So to generally take our businesses to the next level. And I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Dr. Amanavia, thank you very much for those very insightful comments and for your contribution, much appreciated. I heard you saying, you know, we should try and be open with our employees. I think this is really important, you know, sharing the load and sharing some of the responsibility, because I think at times as leaders, especially during these difficult times, we try to carry everything on our shoulders, right? And there's a lot of pressure right now. So if we can share the load, I can see how, you know, that will be really comforting to some business owners and managers out there. So last but definitely not least, we're going to invite Akofa to share some insights on financial management, cash flow management during this challenging time. I mean, this is Bank of Africa hosted webinar, so we can't not talk about money today, right? Although we don't have any stimulus package to hand out, Akofa will be able to share some insights with us as to how we can go a little bit further. And for those who have just joined us, I'm seeing the numbers creeping up once again. Today, we are talking about managing your business during a crisis. And we have some esteemed panelists, and we're just about to go into our last panel discussion. Thank you.
Hello, Letitia, and hello, everyone. Thank you. And a warm welcome once again to this webinar. I can see we're having great discussions so far, and I'll now share my thoughts on how we can manage our cash flows and finances during these difficult times. So we've probably heard the saying that cash is king. And if cash is king, then the king himself, the queen herself, that is the business leader, must be involved in cash flow activities. You can't leave management of your cash flow to your financial controller or accounts manager. You have to be involved. In fact, research has it that 82% of all businesses that fail due to cash flow problems. And we must understand as business leaders that cash is the lifeblood of our business, and therefore decisions that we take should be based on our cash flows. We shouldn't base our decisions on nice to haves. This is the time to base your decisions on cash flow. We also must understand that there's a difference between cash flow and profitability. So you can have all the great business plans, all very good products and great services. If you do not manage your cash flow properly, although your business is profitable in the long run, in the short term, you would not have the cash to ride the storm and realize those great business plans. We should also understand that there are negative repercussions if we do not manage our cash flows properly. As business leaders, we would get opportunities down the line. We're in a crisis now, new opportunities may come up. If you don't have the cash flow, you may not be able to take advantage of those opportunities. If you can't pay your employees, you may lose great talent. If you can't service your facilities with your banks, you may fall into cash flow difficulties. And so we will look at how together we can manage our cash flows and ride the storm in these difficult times. So Dr. Manobi already talked about how COVID has disrupted everything. In fact, every sector of the economy has been negatively impacted. And this is a time to engage all our stakeholders properly because they all affect our cash flows. So if you had clients in the hospitality, tourism industries, the airlines, it means that demand for your goods and services has gone down, and this would mean a reduction in your revenues and your cash flows. The supply chains have been affected, borders have been closed. Most of us who used to travel to buy goods and raw materials do not have that opportunity anymore, and this would definitely affect your cash flow. You can't produce the goods that you need to raise those revenues. Governments have been affected, employees. We as banks also, our business is your business. So once your businesses are affected, ours has also been affected. But this is the time, I must say, that you need a good banking partner like the Bank of Africa to support your business. So we are a strong group of professionals. We have the backing of a great parent, a great group, and so we have that financial muscle to support your business in these difficult times. We will now look at some specific tips to manage our cash flows in these times. So the key thing is to review your entire business operations and business plans and find ways that you can cut any waste and really focus on the profitable areas in your business, which will generate the cash flows for you in the short term to ride this storm. Also, as business leaders, this is the time to cut all unnecessary expenses. Your expenses should gear towards essentials that would help you survive these times and be able to realize your plans. Authorize all your payments yourself, be involved, so you can cut out any waste, you can eliminate fraud and errors. This is the time also to optimize your pricing. So you should relook at your pricing. Have there been any changes in the expenses towards the services and the goods that you provide? And if there have been, then you need to incorporate these into your pricing. If you depend on the foreign currency market, how has depreciation impacted you? You have to factor that in your pricing. If you're giving more credit terms to your customers, that is money that you could have invested or money drawn on your overdraft limits, which is costing you, you have to incorporate that into your pricing. Management of receivables this time is key. You need to provide more convenient methods for customers to make payments to you. And we have all the digital products now in the banking system. In Bank of Africa, we have great digital products which you can use, POS systems, Visa cards, QR codes, your internet banking, mobile banking linked to your Momo wallet. These are methods that you could provide your clients. We know that we are in the era of social distances. We don't want to handle cash. This is a time to provide those convenient payment methods for your clients so they can easily make those payments to you. We also need to forecast our cash flows very well. Usually you'd use historical information to project your cash flows. How would your cash flows look in a week's time, in a month's time, in a year's time? Now you have to incorporate forward-looking information as well. Budget has just been read. What sectors would get some relief? Which sectors have been badly hit by COVID? Are your clients in those sectors? Are your suppliers in those sectors? Are there any new taxes? How will it affect your cash flow? Incorporate all those forward-looking information into your cash flow projections, and also try to keep buffers. This is the time to keep at least 3 to 6 months buffers for your operational costs so that you can ride the storm and realize your business dreams. And once your cash flow projections forecasts have been done, you will be able to realize where you have some financing gaps. And with a great banking partner like the Bank of Africa, we can support you to bridge those financing gaps. And the key thing to note is that using the right source of finance for your business is also key. You could fall into cash flow problems just because you are not using the right kind of finance. Where you need an overdraft and you're using a loan or another kind of finance, for instance, you could fall into cash flow problems. We'll now look at the various sources of finance for your business, and in these, especially in these times. For SMEs, usually the problem is a lack of collateral. We have the perception that SMEs are risky, and so you need to work closely with your bank to overcome that, to structure your facility, your business properly so you can access financing. For SMEs to overcome the problem of no collateral, you could consider financing products like leasing and project finance, where the project or the leased equipment could act as a collateral. You could consider invoice discounting, where you've done some works and you have invoices that are not yet due. You could consider trade finance as well. And there are also government facilities which you could count on. We know of the 1 billion CD fund by government, which is dispersed through the National Board for Small Scale Industries and BSSI. Government just announced a 2 billion CD fund for businesses, which will, the modalities are yet to be out, but will be dispersed through the banks. You could work with your bank to see if you meet the criteria to access some of these funds, because usually they will come with no collateral requirements and lower interest rates. We have the traditional sources of types of financing from banks, bank loans and bank overdrafts. And we also have CSR activities from large corporates and multinational. An example is the $1 million a year fund by the BMC Bank of Africa, that is our parent bank. They provide $1 million every year for innovative startup activities in Africa. And if you meet the criteria, you could access part of those funds. So you should look out, read the news, talk to your bankers, and talk to us in Bank of Africa to find out what financing opportunities are available. Equity finance is also another source of finance that I would talk about. Lastly, these are the times that you'd want to look at other areas, venture into new areas. And you could find a partner who has expertise or resources in that area that you could partner with to an equity partnership to move your business forward. We've talked about the problem of SMEs accessing finance in the banks, and the key thing for SMEs is to show proof to their bankers that they maintain good books. So good bookkeeping is important. Using the banking system for all transactions, so you can show very good turnovers. Nowadays, it's been made easier. You have all the digital platforms available. And so if you even have a small corner shop, you could have a QR code where customers can scan payments directly to your bank account. You could use POS systems. Your mobile banking could be linked to your bank account. So there are various methods that can assist you to ensure that you pass every CD through the banking system to your bank account, so you can show good turnovers and banks can rely on that to grant you the financing you need. You should also show that you understand your business plan, you have the competence and the skill to realize those business plans, you have access to markets, you have a track record and good corporate governance structures in place. So I'll give a brief on the SME support facilities that we have in Bank of Africa. So to help our customers ride through the storm, we designed a product called Oxygen, which is to give a new breath of life for our customers in these difficult times. This product enables you to have some extensions, moratoriums, where your business could reorganize so you don't have to make payments for a few months and you can re-strategize to continue your payments. We support your working capital. We've also reduced our lending rates and charges. We have all the digital payment channels that you can think of to advance your business. This is the era of social distancing, so you need that. We provide advisory services. In fact, we are the best bank in advisory services in the industry. And this is one such forum. We are building the capacity of SMEs to ride the storm. We have all the products you can think of. We have an SME support facility where you don't need collateral to access. We have our trade finance facilities. In fact, we are the trade bank of Africa. We have the global presence, 18 African countries and counting on 4 different continents. So we have that group support to provide a seamless trade finance offering for your business. We have vehicle finance facilities, etc., etc. Lastly, I would want to talk about managing risk in your business. So COVID happened when none of us expected it to happen. And it is those businesses who had good business continuity plans, good risk management plans, who were able to ride this health and safety risk. As business leaders, we should look through the entire gamut of our operations to identify all the risk areas, strategic, compliance risk, liquidity risk, credit risk, and make a note of all these risks. What is the impact? What are the mitigating measures you could put in place to overcome these risks if they crystallize? Your business continuity plan should be well documented and should cover all your employees, the owner, the premises, IT systems and softwares, markets, customers, suppliers, etc. If something happens to your major customer or your major client, how would you overcome that? If something happens to your suppliers, you lose one supplier, how are you going to overcome it? You need to think through all of this and put systems or backup plans in place to ensure your success in your business going forward. I would end here and hand over to Letitia.
Akofa, thank you very much for that insightful discussion, or should I say insights, for useful insights. The questions around coming in very fast. Everybody wants to know how much money Bank of Africa has for SMEs during this period. But as I mentioned before, we don't have a COVID relief fund here. We're just here to help you to navigate and get through the challenging period. So I think we can kind of do a bit of a recap, really, and have some discussion around you know, the key kind of like themes that have come up today. Taka, you got us off to a very, very strong start, you know, talking about the importance of resilience during this period. But as I've seen from some of the questions in the chat box, the leaders are saying that they're tired. They feel like they're carrying their business, they're carrying their employees, they're carrying everybody. You know, how do they begin to share the load? So maybe just a couple of very quick kind of like top of the head things that people can do to take care of themselves during this period. Over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Letitia, and thanks, Musa, for that question. Because indeed, that is what I'm hearing from many of my clients. They're tired, they're exhausted. And so I think what we're all learning, that it's not just about building the resilience of our organizations, but it's also about building our own resilience as leaders. So these are very top of the head 5 areas I think that help a leader to build resilience in 5 kind of key sectors or key aspects of life. The first is the mindset. And it's back to my whole thing about what are you tuned into? It's very easy during these times to be tuned into endless news and narrative about how bad things are. So it's pay attention to your mindset, ensure that you're tuning in to a space of abundance and not scarcity. So manage your thoughts. The second area is managing your physical self. So we all know this is not rocket science. Our body needs 3 things from us: to sleep, to eat, and to move. So this is not the time, particularly when we're going through anxiety, to neglect that very important part of us. So that's the second. The third is the spiritual. Luckily in Ghana, where many people of faith, again, dig deep. This is the time for the physical and the faith muscles to be tested. Fourth, I would say, are your emotions. The emotions of leaders have a ripple effect on the team. So when you're anxious, they're anxious, and they're watching you to see what's your temperament. So again, as you mind your thoughts, you're tuning into abundance, not scarcity. You're tuning into crisis, not threats. Then again, you keep your emotions positive. And the final, I would say, is that...
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Taka.
I was just going to say the final one is the social aspect. Many people talk about leadership being a very lonely job process. But I think it's really important at this point, at this time, for leaders to have those 1 or 2 people they can connect with, that they can unburden themselves with, trusted beloveds who you can share with, as part of building your resilience. Sorry, Letitia, you were about to ask something.
No, please. It's okay. I was just going to move on to Dr. Amanabia. We need to really jump into the Q&A. But Dr. Amanabia, I think that one of the key things that you spoke about was scenario planning, right? And the questions are coming in around scenario planning as to, you know, what specifically does that mean? Maybe we can explore it a little bit more in the Q&A. But I think that there could be a couple of kind of like key things, top line things that maybe you can share with people.
I think scenario planning is basically looking at your business from a bird's eye view and looking at breaking your business down into what is your business about? And going forward, is this business with its different elements, will that be enough to confront what might lie ahead? And it's looking at all those possibilities of what might lie ahead. So it's basically a brainstorm. It's a brainstorm. And again, it's not just about you, the leader, sitting down and doing this. This is something that you will get more value out of if you're able to do it with others, you know, others in the organization, or I like the phrase that Taka used, your trusted beloveds, you know, people that you can count on, your mentors, the people in your business, looking at all the possibilities that might lie ahead with them.
Okay, so maybe I just want to hone in a little bit on what it is that you're saying, because the way that I understand that is asking yourself, what are my customers potentially going to require from me as a service provider or as a deliverer of products in the future or at this present moment? How could my service be adapted? What would look differently for my business in maybe 6 months or 12 months time, depending upon the change of behavior that COVID may have brought about, etc. So are those the kind of questions that we're talking about when we're talking about scenario planning?
Yes, those are the kinds of questions. I saw a question that somebody had put on there asking about producers. So for instance, if your inputs are going to increase in price going forward, what are you going to do about it? Is it possible to band together with others in your sector and form a powerful group that you can go and buy, you know, in bulk and at better prices? You know, what can you do to stand up against the different challenges that you might confront? And the challenges differ. There are all kinds, depending on your sector, depending on the kind of business and so on.
Thank you very much, ladies, for just doing that quick recap. Akofi, you're going to be in the hot seat because the majority of the questions that are coming through is it's about finance. How do I manage my finances during this period? As Amanabia just said, you know, when the cost of inputs are increasing so rapidly, right? How do you ensure that you're not putting too much burden on your customer? How do you ensure that you're still able to make a profit, but anticipating the fact that there's only a certain amount of elasticity in the marketplace? So maybe you can speak to that as well, just from a finance perspective a little bit.
Yeah. How do you manage your finances so you don't overburden your customers and generates the profitability and the cash flows that you need in these times? So you need to really look at the various products and services that you offer. So in finance, we have sometimes you could have products that have are cash rich. So we have what we call the cash rich client. Sometimes, so once you have a good mix of cash-rich clients or cash-rich products and services in your business, there could also be what we call the loss leaders. So there could be certain services or products that you offer that you know have great potential in the future, and you're ready at the moment to just cover for the variable costs in making those products and services, and not putting all your fixed cost allocations on those products, so that you can ride the storm in the meantime, create that good customer base, become let's say, a market leader in that product, or get a very good customer base from that product, so that in the long run you're profitable. But you should have a good mix of these in your business. So this is a time that you should really look at the products and services you're offering. If all the products you're offering are loss leaders, meaning you can't cover for the entire fixed and variable costs, then you could face cash flow problems in the future. So you need to look at other areas. What other products and services can you bring on board that will give you that cash flow in the meantime, whilst you're nurturing these other not so profitable parts of the business.
Thank you very much, Akofa. So I think the undercurrent to that is agility, right? We need to be flexible in our approach to our business. So a very practical example of what you're saying, I think if your business is offering 5 or 6 different types of products, it's now about you sitting down to do the analysis to figure out, okay, which of these products can I sustain during this period? Which of the products gives me, the biggest margin? Where can I focus my attention? Where is there room? Should my suppliers or the inputs continue to increase? Where is there room for me to still continue to make a profit? So all in all, I think that the undercurrent that's running through the conversation today is that we're agile during these times. We need to start thinking about our businesses. Seeing questionably about challenges that may be facing scenario planning for different sectors. I think that not to necessarily answer on behalf of the panelists, but I think that yes, every industry is going to be different. We need to try and apply these tools and this insight that we have across multiple sectors. And I think it's for you to maybe kind of sit down and think through what does scenario planning look like in my sector if I'm in fair indication as to when the borders are going to open? What do I need to be thinking about? I think those are the kind of thoughts that businesses are having right now. My connection, guys. Guys, are you with me? I lost connection for a second. Okay, Taka's giving me the thumbs up. Right, so Taka, a question for you now from the audience today.
Yeah.
A very specific leadership question. How do I get my key members of staff to kind of start thinking and acting more entrepreneurially? Maybe in the past they had more laid back type of roles, or not necessarily laid back, but they were kind of operating as a do this and do that type of basis. But now they're required to really step out of their comfort zones and speak.
Thanks, Letitia. So the key thing is that it is you as the leader who will have to change your style. Previously, you may have had a very directive style. But really, if you would like to see your employees get a lot more entrepreneurial, it means your style has to change. So for instance, rather than giving people the answers, rather than constantly telling people what to do, increasingly you're asking them about, what do you think would be the best strategy here? What do you see as the potential risks here? So you're constantly in conversation with them and getting them to start to recognize that the dance, and this is the key thing about leadership, it's often a dance between you, the leader, and the follower. So even as you change your style, you need to be in conversation with them constantly in terms of your expectations, seeing a lot more of an entrepreneurial spirit from them. But it's really ultimately about you being more agile in terms of how you manage and engage them.
Fantastic. So once again, we're back to agility. It may be, I think this webinar is presented as all with an opportunity to do a little bit of our own independent research around how we can become a little bit more agile in our thinking. I work with entrepreneurs and startups, on a daily basis. And one of the key things that I always look for in a business owner is agility. You need to be able to adapt to the market and adapt to, changing of circumstances within the business, adapt to new technologies coming in, disruption, as Taka was saying earlier. So adaptation and agility very much hand in hand. And I think that it's definitely something that we can do a little bit more research on ourselves. So I don't want to necessarily focus too much on that. So a couple of questions have come in around banking per se. If you're not a structured business and you don't have necessarily the right formal structures in, is there any support that people can get in terms of SME financing? So somebody that may have not registered their business, are there any options out there for them? I think that goes to you.
Yes, so if you want to access a facility support for Bank of Africa, come talk to us, and then because the structures are important, we have to be law-abiding, so we need to get those businesses registered if you're an SME and then you want to access a facility. You need to do things properly, because that would even help you in winning contracts. You know, there could be some contract that you could win if you have registered your business. If you haven't registered your business, some companies will not even, or some clients will not even want to deal with you. So those structures are important at the end of the day. So when you talk to us, we'll help you to structure your business. We are great at advisory services, so we would advise you on how to put the proper structure to your business. However small it is, there is the right structure that you can put to it to be able to access support. Mind you, as a bank, we hold depositors' funds in trust for them, and so we have to do our due diligence in giving out those facilities to ensure that they come back and we can pay our depositors. So talk to us. We are a great partner. We would assist you to put that right structure in place to access the support that you need.
Thank you very much, Akofa, for that. There's also just another quick question around access to finance. I mean, you're saying that there isn't a Bank of Africa in your locality. I'm sure if you were to move to, if you check online and see what is the closest branch willing to open an account for you and willing to provide you with the necessary information as to how you may be able to get some support for financing in due course, of course. Now, Shiva, I just want to say thank you very much for being so interactive in this discussion. She's been doing half of the work of the panelists for you, giving lots of insights and advice and recommendations as to how people can navigate these times. So just to maybe share one of her comments, figuring out what people need now and knowing what talents you have that can meet those needs. You may learn a new trade if you're passionate about it, and if it has the potential to thrive. So I think she's basically saying that this is an opportunity for reflection, right? Understanding where your strengths and where your interests may be could also lead to you starting another business that could potentially be, you know, the next Bank of Africa. Let's put it that way. Dr. Amanabia, we also heard from Osei, who's saying that what do you do if you lost your job? How do you go about starting a business? What would you say are the two key things that you need to consider if you're thinking about starting a business during COVID, or during this pandemic, should I say? I think you may be on mute.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we see you now.
Yeah. So two key things to consider if you want to start a business. First of all, what are you good at? What do you know how to do? What do you know how to do? What do you know how to do? What are your strengths, your interests, your resources? So do you have some savings somewhere? Do you have a car? that you can put to use doing something? Do you have an oven, for example? What interests do you have that you can match up with resources that you have, that you can match together to form a business of some kind? And again, it's about thinking outside the box, really thinking outside the box and trying to be, you know, set your mind free, do some brainstorming. When I say brainstorming, you can do it alone with a notepad and a pen. Just write down all the ideas that come to you, you know, and then research them. You need information. So it's what you know how to do, and then it's information. You need information. If you come up with ideas, do the research. You know, we live in an information age. Just click on a button. You'll get all sorts of resources to give you information about what it is that you want to do. And then you can move on from there without putting too much, too many resources in there.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank Bank of Africa once again for organizing this webinar. I think it's been a fantastic experience. So thank you very much to the Managing Director, Kobi Anda, and to the Deputy Managing Director, Fatumatu Gaku, sorry, I do apologize, for having the initiative to set up this wonderful experience for us this afternoon. And in partnership with Glitz, of course, we can't forget about Glitz. So I think we're gonna jump into some more questions. I think Tucker's going ahead and responding to some of these questions in the chat. But I think for the purpose of everybody that is listening, you know, how do you kind of find that balance really with senior management having to come up with new strategies to implement and the constraints that they may be under? Taka, do you want to maybe expand on your response for the purpose of the wider group?
Sure. So everybody, Yusuf had asked me about whether this is something that senior management comes up with specific strategies or due to time constraints, or can it be more bottom up? Huh? And sorry about those lovely birds behind me, if you can hear them. Huh? But the idea is this is the time to consult. Because we're working in a space of great uncertainty, you have no idea where the next brilliant idea will come from. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to learn how to consult quickly so that we are more agile in terms of getting information from the bottom up. I heard about, and I'll end with this, I heard about a company in Dubai who, because they had an open culture of information coming from the front line right to the top, they heard about COVID from their staff in Wuhan in January. But again, because of that culture and because people were able to feed that information upwards, by January, they were able to start putting in responsive plans well before the first case of COVID actually came up. So this is the time to consult, but learn how to do it quickly.
Fantastic. Another very specific question I think will be going to Akofa. Do we still have Akofa on the line? I'm not seeing her here. As to whether Bank of
Hello, Letitia.
Okay, you're with us. Does Bank of Africa finance startup companies? And if so, what would be the requirements?
Okay, yes, so Bank of Africa supports all business ideas so long as it's properly structured and it's in line with our strategy. And so as a good partner, as a great banking partner, we will work with you to ensure you have those structures in place. Yes, if you have a good business plan, you have great market access, you have a solid contract, why not? We would work with you to finance your business. If there are any shortfalls, we will provide those advisory services to ensure you put the structures in place, the gaps that are there are filled, so we are comfortable financing your business. In fact, we look forward to developing SMEs, because we know that the SMEs of today are the big businesses of tomorrow. So if we support you now, support startups, and they grow, our business also grows. Thank you.
So in short, the answer is yes, but you have to come to the table prepared. And I think we even spoke about that a little bit earlier on in the conversation, the importance of, having some kind of formal structure in your business, keeping a record of your finances as best as you can to enable you that when the time comes for you to get access to finance to grow, you're now not left wanting and trying to package yourself and put yourself together. I can see that people are raising their hands. I'm assuming it's because you want to ask a question or give us a comment. Please do put your messages into the chat box. As a part of the protocol for today, we'd prefer to take messages that way. So we have another question here, I think coming in from, oh no, it's another comment coming in from Shiba, and then another comment coming in from Taka. Okay, so I think that the general kind of like question that I'm seeing here is, how do people really go about understanding sorry, a bit of interference there. How do people start going to about applying all of the knowledge that they've received today to their own businesses? And I see this a lot, that people participate in workshops, they listen to seminars, they jump on and listen to webinars, but actually taking this information away and starting to apply it to their own business can often be a challenge, or where the challenge starts, so to speak. So Taka, maybe I'll hand over to you, and then Amanabe, maybe you can also come in with your insights as well as we wrap up today's discussion. How do we now take all of this information and start to apply it in our daily work activities?
Great, thanks, Letitia. And I just put it in the chat as well. I would say pick one takeaway and put that into practice. Just do one thing and do it consistently. That would be my advice.
Consistency is key, right?
Yes, indeed.
Manavia, how would you add on to that? Do we still have her? Have we lost her?
She's on mute.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. So, as Taka said, pick an activity, a couple of activities. Don't overwhelm yourself by taking too much. Put it into an action plan. Have a plan for how you're going to implement them. Make it simple, day to day. What are you going to do today about it? What are you going to do tomorrow to take it forward? And that way you're giving yourself a plan as to how am I going to implement these things on a day-to-day business.
Okay, so breaking down the action plan into your daily activities and how you expect those activities to start reflecting on change within your business. So we're not necessarily talking about a very complex strategy. We don't need to hire any consultants here. It's really about you managing the change in your business on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so I think we'll allow Akofa to just maybe give a final thought on today's webinar before we go for closing remarks with the Managing Director of the bank. Akofa, would you like to wrap us up?
Yes, thank you, Letitia. And thank you everyone for joining this webinar. We've had great discussions so far, leading yourself, being emotionally in tune with your employees, with your business as business leaders, being agile and being collaborative. Those are key takeaways for me. And I would also add that engagement is key. Engage with all your stakeholders. Look through your business operations and see where you can cut waste, cut unnecessary expenses so you can survive in these times. Seek the support of all your stakeholders. Explain your situation to your employees, your suppliers, your clients, your bankers, and they will be able to understand and support you on this journey. And I would finally say that cash flow forecasting is key in these times. Incorporate all the forward-looking information on how the crisis or other development in the economy will impact on the various stakeholders, and know and be ready to manage the situation as it unfolds. So if you do your cash flow forecasting properly, you would know which gaps you have, and then you can start thinking ahead how to fill those gaps, what types of financing you need, or what kind of support you need to bridge those gaps and stay afloat. Key thing now, we need to stay afloat. Better days are coming, and we need to stay afloat now so we can take advantage of the better days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akofa. I think she did a great summary of the discussion, so there really is no need for me to do a recap. You see, we're sharing the work. We're giving you an example of how you can share responsibility during these times. So right now, we're going to head over to the Managing Director of the bank, Mr. Kobi Anda, to give us our closing remarks before we wrap up for the day. Please do stay tuned, stay with us. We're not quite finished yet. Mr. Anda, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leticia. I must say I'm overwhelmed. When we decided to have an all-woman panel, some people were asking us that we are discriminating, and I think the women have showed that they were worth every inch that we gave them. They've delivered the various topics with great expertise. I thought I was just here to listen. I saw myself with my pen learning and writing comments so that I could remember. But when we decided to have this webinar and we chose the topic, managing your business out of COVID, basically, we had a lot of debate as to which segment to focus it towards. And we decided to choose the SME segment. We decided on the SME segment for various reasons. One, because it's a prime segment of BOA Group. BOA Group has a 3-year strategic plan. That's the whole group in all the countries we are in. And our emphasis is to shift about 25% of our business to SMEs over this 3-year period. You look at Ghana, we have 85% of businesses being SMEs. SMEs are set to support about 70% of the economy. Unfortunately, SMEs don't have the kind of clout that maybe a multinational or a big corporate could have to maybe learn how to navigate their ways out of COVID. With a big group, you have group support, there's a lot of research going on, and you get the guidance. But SMEs don't. And therefore, we have taken it upon ourselves to provide them that opportunity. It's not only the financial. I saw a lot of questions on the financials, but even the soft issues. The soft issues are even more important in a lot of respects. And I think I'll thank our panelists for delivering this very well. Taka, I heard you, I don't know the number of times you said being agile. You were trying to drum this in: resilience, agile, flexibility. Amonobia was telling us, look for the silver lining in the dark cloud. And that is very important. I mean, we cannot but engage our stakeholders. They are part of our team. We cannot let them down. We cannot be tired. If we are tired, you look at the stakeholders that depend on you. You cannot let them down. Akofa basically also saying cash is king, preserving your cash in crisis. And Akofa did a very good job at selling BOE together with Fatu. So I can justify having this webinar to my directors and I think that was good, Akofa. Thanks you and Fatu. But what I will say myself is that this too shall pass. The world has been through a lot of issues like that. We went through the First World War, went to the Second World War. We turned out stronger. I mean, the strength of the world now, the growth in the GDP, global GDP from when the Second World War happened, is incredible. I mean, it has never been like that since humans started existing on this planet. So we have to remain agile. The key thing is to weather yourself through the COVID and prepare for the aftermath of it. But to do that, you have to survive. Our businesses have to sustain the COVID. And I think that's the essence that we need to drum in here. The two words I'll leave you with, I'll go back to Taka. We have to be agile and we have to be resilient. So with this, I'll thank at a certain point, we had 150 people signed in. I mean, this is more than what we expected. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took lessons away from this. I hope and wish you all the best as we navigate ourselves through this unknown territory. I know Bank of Africa will be on the other side and we'll want to be there with you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leticia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anda. So that brings us to a close for today. Thank you once again to Bank of Africa. Thank you to Glitz. Thank you to all of the fantastic panelists for sharing some really great insights with us and giving us some very key tools to take away and apply to our businesses and our strategies going forward. Although this was an all-women panel, I think we had a real good split in terms of participation. So the men signed up in their numbers to come and listen to a panel full of women talking about business. So that to me deserves a round of applause. I can also see that the accolades are coming in thick and fast. You know, thank you, so insightful, great panelists, great information, wonderful MC, of course. The compliments are coming in their 10. So we want to thank all of you for just taking the time out of your busy day. We know these are not easy times. So thanks for being with us, and we hope that we get to do this with you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.